hello and welcome to Say More.
We are both poets. Emotions are what guide us.
Who knows the words?
About men who gaslight us. Chocolate has fight more.
Right. Thank you so much. We are so talented. Okay, well, first of all, I had a hard time thinking of questions to ask you because I feel like what I just know everything about. I know who all the lovers are. I know who your dad is and how hot he is. And it's just lovers and dad is the crux of your
Sometimes,
book.
yeah, they're really similar. Okay.
So I feel like all of the questions.
My lover routinely reminds me of my dad. It's fucking weird.
Oh man, love.
I just spent a week in Mexico with my lover's mom, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we're really similar. Okay, going to therapy."
He calls you.
We don't need to get into that. Okay.
I need to go back to therapy. So, anyway, I feel like I guess I just ask questions that I already know. My instinct was like, ooh, craft. Like, what made you want to write a prose poem? What made you want to put the Babysitter poems in parentheses? But this isn't my reading with Ocean Vuong, where I tried to know what the word lexicon was. Now I know what it is. It's like just a word bank. That's just what it means.
Oh, really?
Just like your personal word bank, lexicon.
Oh, okay.
I
remember him being like the lexicon of violence.
Right.
And I was like, you're the smartest person in the world.
So anyway, I guess let's just go from the beginning. You kind of said this briefly, but where did your obsession with true crime, murdered women, being murdered kind of begin?
Well, I guess this book was like an exploration of that. Okay. I was trying to figure that out. I feel like I've always been really fascinated with true crime and wasn't sure why. And it honestly, I wish I had like a more emotional answer, but do you guys listen to the podcast My Favorite Murder? Yeah, okay, so I don't know if they're like canceled or something. I don't know. Who the fuck is canceled? Everyone's canceled, okay. I don't know if it's like not cool to say their names anymore.
Maybe it's cool to be canceled.
Yeah.
Just kidding, it's not.
I know, but I also feel like every single time I bring someone out, they're like, oh, they're canceled.
Not cool anymore.
And I'm like, what? Okay, so, okay. So, which doesn't make being fucked up okay, but I don't know. So it wasn't until I listened to that podcast that I realized like the obsession with true crime is not just me, and that it maybe comes from that it's something deeper than just enjoying something, that it's like this weird form of seeing yourself and like your biggest fear coming to life. And I think I've always been like that, where like when I first started learning about puberty, I like needed every single book about it to like read before bed because I was so afraid of it.
Oh my God, the Karen keeping of you.
Yes, and when you're like, I need to read everything so I can prepare.
I was obsessed with the photo of the girl like brushing her teeth topless.
And with her little boobs.
Like tiny boobs, bigger boobs, jugs.
Yeah.
It was just, brushing my teeth.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
But it was that same sort of reaction where it was like, I'm so afraid of this thing, so I have to learn everything about it so I can prepare for it.
Yeah.
And I think like I just felt like being murdered was like a very real threat, and it was something I'd been learning to avoid my whole life. Like in sex ed, they taught us to put a napkin over our drinks, and it was like this thing of like, oh, you're gonna get roofied, so be careful, And so when I started listening to that podcast is when I really started to unpack why I felt this way. And then I also started noticing some really unhealthy habits, like staying up all night for weeks on end until the sun rose because I was so afraid of being murdered in my own bed.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, I have to write about this because it's taking over my entire life. And until I write about it, I won't be healed from it. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Writing is therapy.
Yeah.
We don't need it. Still.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a list of questions. I'm a Virgo. So on page 103, Will I Ever Stop Writing About the Dead Girl?
Sure.
At the end, you say, I'm sorry for killing the mood. What do you think is the importance of, if any, of being a killjoy?
Ooh, thank you for that. So actually, that's something I'm working on in therapy. My therapist says that I do that too much, which, like, I think she's right, because she said I don't ever know how to, like, get out of it. Like, I kill the mood, and then I also kill my own mood, where I just, like, can't be happy after that. And I'm really working on, like, holding everything at once and being like, okay, this is fucked up, and also, like, maybe I enjoy it, or also maybe I can move on from it. But I think the importance of being a killjoy is, I think that, like, a lot of people are, I think sometimes, like, optimism can be a privilege, and I think that, like, a lot of people are optimistic to the point of being complicit, and I don't know, and I guess I feel like I don't want to enjoy things that are at the expense of someone else, and I don't want to be in a good mood just because it makes people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And I just, it's like true to my character to ruin everything. Because, like, most things are fucked up, and, like, sorry if you and your bros were, like, having a good time while everyone worked for you, you know, and you were, like, existing on the fact that no one was going to call it out.
Right. You're like, man.
Yeah, why do you have to, and that's happened a lot, many times, especially around men that are like, why do you have to go there? And it's like, I didn't go there. I just, like,
I just like said what
I
it
just
was.
said what's in front of me, you know?
It's so violent to, like, look on the bright side.
Right? Like, fuck the bright
like,
side.
Okay, like, what is Mr. Brightside?
Fuck you, you know?
All right.
Also, fuck playing devil's advocate.
And fuck the killers. Just kidding. I love the killers.
Okay.
Sorry.
I agree. Fuck the killers.
No!
But it's true, and it's something I'm grappling with, because I
Yeah.
do think I also have a tendency to, like, be very holistic in my brain, where I'm like, one bad thing, it means everything is bad, and I don't want to be like that. I don't want to exist like that. So I'm working on that.
Yeah.
On being a killjoy, but not, like, killing everything good.
Not killing. I mean, joy can exist while you acknowledge that the world is fucked up.
Yeah.
But you don't have to, like, ride on the backs of others to have a good time.
No. Yesterday I was at Verizon. I had to get a new cell phone. My phone broke, and I was there, and this guy named Matthew who was like,
another Matt.
fucking shit. He was like, so, are we gonna do the fucking plan today? And I was
Shut
like, no,
up.
Matthew, I just want a fucking phone. And he was like,
Yeah.
great, so, like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, and then I, like,
You're
turned
like,
to
I'm a writer. He's like, that's so cool. Me
what do you
too."
write about? I don't know what I write about. I've murdered women, and then
he's
that
like,
kills the mood. And then I turned to the people next to me. I was like, don't you ever just want to move to a farm? And they were like, a farm? And I was like, you've never heard of a farm? And then they were like, and then Matthew was like, don't say the A word. And I was like, what's
What?
the A
What?
word? And he was like, Amazon. And I was like, what? And I was like, fuck Jeff Bezos. And I said that. And then everyone went quiet, similar to what just happened in this very room.
Oh my God, he's here.
Yeah, actually, I was at Whole Foods the other day.
Jeff
because
Bezos is an ally. He loves feminism.
Jeff Bezos
does not kill women.
No,
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos was born and raised in Albuquerque.
Oh my God.
And so
Jeff Bezos is an ex-bookseller. We do not talk about him.
Was he?
Yeah.
His dad owned a bike shop, a
Yeah.
bicycle shop. He was one of us. But I was at Whole Foods the other day buying vitamins because they had this crazy discount at Whole Foods vitamins, okay? And if you had an Amazon. Okay. And it was fucked up, but I went there because I was like, I'm going to cash in on this. So I went in, I got some fucking L-theanine.
Oh my God, you are part of the problem.
I know. But I don't want to get anti-anxiety medication, so I got L-theanine, which is like this herb or whatever. So I was like there being like, fucking fix me. And then I'm like using my credit card and it's not working. And I was like, she was like, I don't know, it's not working. And then I was like, capitalism, am I right? Fuck Jeff Bezos. And right then on the screen, it said like,
oh, no.
It didn't say declined, it said like, card not welcome, or like some crazy ass phrase.
Like,
Yeah, it was like, you are not welcome here. And I was like, whoa, he's listening. So I gave them cash and left.
Dang.
But not,
He's everywhere. He's like Santa.
I don't think I'm supposed to talk about this.
Oops.
My book's on Amazon.
Sorry.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. Amazon supports ICE. Thank you. Okay, so moving on. Pretend I didn't say that, but also remember it. Let's talk about the poem Elegy for Allegedly.
Sure.
So what about the word, so in this poem, it's like very small, but you talk about kind of like the violence of saying like allegedly and being like, oh, that's just how you remembered it. Like you weren't assaulted, that's just like what your memory was. So what is like, I don't know, what about that word is violent, is like unuseful? Maybe we should stop using it. I don't know.
Well, I wrote it because I noticed, I think it's like a journalistic requirement to say allegedly. And I understand that because we can't just be out here like convicting people or blaming people of shit they didn't, like necessarily do. Although like, what does it mean to prove that someone did something in the justice system? Again, being a killjoy, nothing is real. So but I wrote it because I was like reading so many articles that were like, it's like Jeffrey Epstein allegedly was a sex trafficker. And you're like, what? Like, what do you mean allegedly?
Yeah.
Like, and I guess my question became, at what point does allegedly disappear? And can we just acknowledge the facts of what happened? And I think so often people's memories are diluted or gaslighted with the word allegedly. And so I was trying to apply that mindset to my own life and stop saying allegedly to my own life, because I was gaslighting myself and being like, this allegedly happened to me in so many words. And so I just wrote down all my memories of what happened, and wherever allegedly would take place, if say it was written in an article, I just removed it and put a gap in its place. Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering that question.
You're welcome, Melissa.
Okay, so another question on my list is, a lot of these poems are rooted in memories. Can you talk about like what it was like approaching these memories and under, I guess, the umbrella of violence and true crime?
Yeah, I write a lot from memory, and I think I just try to honor what's like clawing at my mind. So when something is sticking around, if it's a memory that I can't get rid of, or a memory I find myself talking about a lot or referring to, regardless of if it seems like it has any significance, I try to write it down because clearly it does. And while writing this book, because I figured out what my assignment was, which was to write about my relationship to true crime and to fear, I was able to sort of tap into memories that I'd previously, I don't think, allowed myself to remember or allowed myself to honor as real. And so things just kept coming up, and I think I could, in another world, like never stop writing this book. There are so many parts, there's so many things that have come up since the book came out that I guess the book comes out tomorrow, but since the book was finished, that I have been like, oh, that could have been there, that could have been in that. Even memories that I wish I could expand on. The unfortunate reality is that, like, the fear of violent men is a never-ending gift. It doesn't stop. It's a bottomless pit. And so I think I could keep writing about it forever. But
Yeah.
I tried to write about my memories and just honoring how I remembered them and treating that as fact, whether that was subject to change or not.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's talk about that. I think this book is like very rooted in like fear of men and fear of like masculine violence, I guess. But there's also like your father, who is hot, is very prominent throughout the book, and I guess I wanted you to say more podcast about. My friend Hannah said that the other day. They were like, can you say more podcast about that? But could you say more about like this like relationship with your father, who is this like very like gentle, hot, kind man, and throughout the book, and like this like nice like a positive image of a man. I also don't want to be like, are you like, what's wrong with men? But like obviously we know. But like, what is the dichotomy? What is the like juxtaposition? What's like?
Okay, you have an
sorry,
MFA, Melissa. We fucking get it.
Actually, I like literally don't. I have another semester. But like, I don't know how to end this question, but I think you know where I'm going. So your father, good man, most men not good. Talk about it.
I think what you're asking is, why do I date like I have daddy issues when I don't?
Yeah.
And I think that's an important question to ask. It's something I've asked myself many times throughout my life. Why am I dating like I have an absent father? Not just kidding. Daddy problems is a myth invented by misogynists. But I also think I could have dated a lot better people. If I dated based on the image of my father, I'd have an amazing track record. Maybe it was some sort of opposite thing. Like when your parents are like really into fucking, I don't know, like they're like, we are a football family, and you're like, I'm an artist. Like my dad was like, I am a sensitive, gentle, vulnerable man. I was like, I need to get fucked by misogynists.
Well, okay. So particularly, I'm thinking about this moment in the poem where you're talking about how your dad. Also, this is like a moment that's now in my memory because you've told it to me a bunch, but there's like a shard in your foot.
Oh, yeah.
And your dad is, and you're 4 years old, and your dad is like, take it out.
Yeah.
And then you say, or maybe I remember it wrong, maybe he took out the shard and put my foot in his mouth.
Yeah.
And that's like very sweet and like sad and kind. So like what about like that moment, like, I don't know, what about that moment? And men and violence.
Yeah, I think I think that poem was an example of like how unreliable our memory can be, which so much of this book is about. My dad is a very sensitive and quiet man who taught me everything I know about like how to be a good person. And I talked to my dad about most things. He taught me about my body. He taught me about like love and relationships, and he's like genuinely a very good person. But I think that something that he was also like really hard and really like kind of tough. He's like a quiet, brooding force. And I think I also like was a little bit afraid of him growing up, and not in a way that felt violent, but in a way that felt like I just really wanted him to be proud of me, and I wanted him to know that I was like strong and could survive. And I think he thinks of me that way. And every time I've shown weakness, he's very like, why? Like, where is this coming from? Why are you crying? Like, what do you mean this shard of glass in your foot is hurting you? Like, I taught you better than that, sort of thing. And so I think that poem was grappling with my memory of him, because I think I have felt this need, because so many men in my life have been so awful. I felt this need to really glorify my father in relation to that, or in contrast to that. And I think I haven't allowed myself much room to also talk about how my dad's like quiet masculinity was really intimidating. And I think that poem is just grappling with that and like unpacking who I think he is versus who he actually is, and the role he played as a man in my life.
Yeah. I think that moment with the shard and the foot really reflects to me as a reader a moment also later where your dad like leaves a note on your door on your car after you haven't been home for a while because you're in this toxic relationship with also, is that my memory or you wrote a poem? Yes.
Yeah, I wrote a poem. I think I wrote a poem. I've told you about it.
Yes, but he's just like, come home when you can, and then you're just like in like this flood of romance and love. So let's talk about that also. How much does this book, like how much did you explore like passionate, maybe all-consuming romance in this book, and like what does passionate, all-consuming romance like mean to you?
I can't deal. It's like I have to stay far away from it. I like passion is like deeply a death sentence for me. Like I will die for someone. I will. I'm like such an intense person, and that happened. That was. I think I wrote an essay about it. I think that's what I sent you, but I don't know that it says it in the book. But yeah, I was like in this relationship that was really like abusive, and I had been gone for so long, and my dad is so not controlling that but he, like, even when he should be, that his reaction was to leave a note on my car outside of the boy's house that said, "Please come home." And I was like, I found it and was like, so it was so jarring to see your parents' handwriting begging you to come back, and realizing what effect your absence was having on them, and how uncertain they were about your safety and your well-being. And I guess passion is like really hard for me. I think there's a poem in the book called "The Lover as a Cult," which is so true for me. I think I treat love like a cult. I'm just like, sign me the fuck up, man. Like, put me in a ankle-length white dress, bitch. I'm here to work on the farm, you know? Like, I'll fucking take the poison. Like, you know, you make funny jokes. Fuck.
I will laugh.
Yeah.
Your music is good.
Your music is good, and you're not
it.
corny.
Yeah.
And then I, like, viciously have to rebel from the cult and leave. And so... I don't know. Passion just isn't good for me. I have to be like moderately in love. I need like deep. I need like subtle. I need stability or something.
Yeah. Stability is nice.
Yeah. Is it real?
I don't know. It's an illusion, but it is nice.
Yeah.
There's many things that are illusions that are nice also. Money. So speaking of like safety, I guess, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe there is a fear that this, I think like reading your introduction where you talk a lot about like who gets attention and who gets like press and who gets to be the murdered woman, right? What is like maybe, I don't want to say a fear you have or something that you just want to say about what this book like isn't about, and a way for this book to like not be interpreted.
I get what you're saying. I get where you're going with that.
Okay.
I think it's really important. I think it's a complicated reality, but I think it can be misinterpreted maybe that this book is maybe a permission slip for white women to live into their fear and call the police every time they feel uncomfortable, every time we feel uncomfortable. And I think that I want to push back on that. And I know that it complicates things to say that the police also aren't reliable, and the police also aren't on your side. And also that your fear isn't always reliable, and that your fear is dictated in many ways by racism and xenophobia, and that that's something worth unpacking too. And I know that leaves you feeling like, that can leave a person feeling like, what the fuck am I supposed to do, you know? But I think with this book, I really wanted to cement the fact that, to me, the police and the justice system, which does not have women's back, which does not have women's well-being in mind, considering the fact that 2% of rapists will serve any day in jail at all, those aren't the people we look to for safety, or that we should challenge our idea of that. So that's something that I feel the need to say, and the author's note sort of illuminates that. But yeah, I don't want this book to serve as a fire under the ass of like, yeah, let's, call the police whenever we're afraid that someone's walking down the street.
Someone said good morning to me.
Yeah, right. So I called the cops.
Yeah.
Because the cops are doing this too. The cops are murdering people. The cops are ignoring violent men who are on their side. And so I know, I guess the reality is like, don't trust anyone. I don't know. Yeah, and it sucks. It sucks to realize that, but sometimes things have to suck.
Yeah. I have two more questions.
Yeah.
One of them is about some of my favorite poems in this. There's like a string throughout this book about your babysitter, and they're told really brilliantly, like center justified in parentheses, almost as if you're like whispering to the reader. And this babysitter seemed to be like a formative like icon to you. what did that babysitter mean to you, and what did like the babysitter as like an image mean to you, like the babysitters of the world? Like I feel like we all have like big sisters who aren't our big sisters who we just like really want to be like. What does that like trope, I guess, mean to you?
Yeah, that's what she was. It's like
Yeah.
she was like this girl that whose job was to look after me, but my role was to just look up at her and in awe. And I think that I had this really pristine memory of her, that when I was older and learned what had been happening to her at the hands of her father, and then what ultimately happened to her which was that she died of a heroin overdose. Like it shook my understanding of my entire childhood, of this girl that I had so idolized, who was still the same girl, but who behind the scenes was suffering immensely at the hands of like the only man in her life. And then in turn reacted by trying to numb herself and her memory. And I think that, you know, like she was like this untouchable figure, and then that memory or that realization or that information like changed that. It made me realize that she was not untouchable, that the entire time I was deeply idolizing her and envying her and wanting to be like her, she was like dealing with this incredible trauma and pain. And also the story of the babysitter really challenged my understanding of what it meant to be a murdered woman. So I don't think people think of like Eileen Wuornos, for instance, as a murdered woman, but she was executed by the state. So she's a murdered woman at the hands of the state. And this babysitter was as well. She died of a heroin overdose, heroin she got addicted to because of her father's abuse. And to me, that is a woman who's been killed. And so, yeah, I think iconize, is that a word? We would romanticize.
Yeah.
Put
Women
on
a pedestal.
Yeah,
Make
murdered
unreal.
women.
Yeah.
And I had already been doing that with this babysitter.
And that's dangerous to do.
Super dangerous. Yeah. And because honestly, I think that idolization is part of what made me and my family miss so many of the signs of what was happening to her, because there were so many. And I had to look back and really grapple with those facts and realize that there were so many things in front of me that told me what was happening to her that I willfully ignored, because she was beautiful, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Are my answers as good as Ocean Vuong's? Say it, Melissa.
They're as good as Ocean Vuong's.
They're not, but it's fine.
No, it's good. Everyone's
fine.
learning something, right?
Seth
Someone's
Meyers
like
would
on their
never-
phone being like, someone's on Tinder right now.
Did anyone bring a Tinder date? Also, is my ex-boyfriend here? Just say yes if you are. Oh, that's not you. That was not him. That was someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would know your voice.
Yeah,
Someone else, but go you for doing that.
Babe, I
The
miss
only
you.
guy here is like, yeah.
Can you tell us a scary story?
Oh my God. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so one time, hold on, let me fix my nose ring. I'm not picking my nose. Okay, one time I was at a casino in Minneapolis. Yeah. And I was with the should I say it?
Who?
I was with
Say
3
who was in the room.
critically acclaimed poets. Okay, one is named Neil Hilborn.
Okay, now you have to name the others.
I just
Okay.
think it's funny that Neil Hilborn was there. Does anyone know who that is? Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
Everyone's like, woo.
As someone with OCD. Okay, just kidding.
Turn the lights off. So Neil Hilborn was there, which is weird. Blythe Baird was there. And Human Win
People
was
were
there.
in the rooms, but we're
I just say it because it's like you guys like know them, so it's like I have to say it, right? So they were there. We're like in this hotel room at this casino for some strange reason in Minneapolis, and we've like been gambling all day and like going down water slides. we're like totally wasted, and we go to sleep in a hotel room. And then we wake up in the middle of the night, and on the TV is a hula dancer, an image of a hula dancer, like going like this. And it's like a cartoon, and she's going like this, but it's like, you know when TVs are like fuzzy, it's like fuzzy, and she's going like this, and the TV is yelling 7, 7, 7, 7, like that. And the hula dancer is like this. And we're like, and we like wake up and we're all sort of like, what's going on? And it's like 7, 7. And we're like, what the fuck's going on? So then like Neil gets up and he's like, oh, I'm a man. So he's like, I'm going to turn it off. Fucking takes a man and presses the button. He's like, I'm going to turn it off. So he's like pressing the button. And he's like, I'm going to turn it off. And it like won't turn off. He's like pressing this button and it won't turn off. It's just like 7, 7. And I get the remote and I'm like trying, and Blythe is like shaking the TV. And Huey's like, and it's just like fucking chaos. And finally we just like unplug the TV and the screen goes blank. That was it. That was my scary story.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I feel like that's a strange way to end, but I guess one question that I also hate to be asked, along with, when did you start writing? Why do you write? Are you a political poet? Everything is political, bitch. So, what do you want readers to take away from this book?
Okay, I feel like I want readers who have felt like irrational in their fears to feel validated and understand that fear comes from experience. In many cases, and that your fear can be very rational, and that in a world obsessed with the deaths and murder of girls and women, it is normal to be afraid. I want readers of this book who haven't felt fear to grapple with the ways that other people feel who aren't them, to listen and to learn and to understand the many precautions that people take to protect themselves every day, just to walk down the street. And yeah, I suppose that's it. And I guess in what we were talking about earlier, especially for I think white women reading the book, to challenge the way we understand what safety means, and to challenge our relationships to authority and to ourselves, our relationships to ourselves. So
cool.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
And I'm really excited for everybody to read this. Thank you all for watching and listening.
And Melissa's, I think there's very few copies of Peluda here, but there are more online.
Yeah, they're more online. You can come talk to me very secretly with your hand over your mouth if you want chapbooks.
Yeah. Black market.
Thank you so much for being in the same room with me.
Yeah, of course.
You're my friend.
Thanks for being here, you guys.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Come
everybody.
get a book signed after.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.